we go. Welcome, everybody. It's a Thursday evening here in Germany. Welcome to the 39th episode of the Hohner live stream here on the Hohner YouTube channel. I'm really excited for today. Thank you, everyone, for letting me know from where you're tuning in. That's awesome. All around the world. It's a big honor for me to welcome Joe Filisco on the stream today. I want to see a lot of clapping hands in the chat now. Welcome, Joe. Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing?
Great. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it very much. I'm doing quite well. It's a cold day here on the outskirts of Chicago, but I kind of like the cold weather. It's better than sweating.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure that there's a lot of snow, or there was a lot of snow at least in Chicago, right?
Yeah, we did. We got quite a bit in the last week. Few snowfalls.
Yeah, it's getting pretty cold here too. I think like tomorrow, like 12 below zero. That's a pretty cold for here. Yeah. So definitely not something we're used to.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know Joe, I'm sure everybody should know about Joe. So you're located close to Chicago, right?
Correct, yeah. Joliet, Illinois, just maybe 45-minute drive outside of Chicago. If you're going to St. Louis, it's right on the way.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Joe was one of the world's finest harmonica players, basically the father of diatonic harmonica customization and a world-renowned educator. So it's an absolute honor to have you here, and thank you for your time. Do you remember the first time we met?
Was it at the restaurant where you came and played with us?
No, it wasn't. I think there was something before. I also had to think about it, but it was possibly at the music fair in Hamburg, in Frankfurt.
Okay, right.
Because that was in 2010 too.
Okay, I can't say I remember meeting you specifically, but it was quite an event there with the launch of the Thunderbird
exactly.
that they had, right? That was a pretty big deal. I felt
that was a big thing. Tremendous
love and respect from the Hohner company for kind of including me in the launch of that. It was that's as far as I'm concerned, that's about as big of a deal as it gets for being a harmonica player.
Yeah, that was crazy. And you're right, it was in 2011.
Okay.
It's 1 year later. But maybe I already participated in the Harmonica Masters in 2010.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But that was definitely fantastic. This is the picture I wanted to show, and I already sent it to you. This was on November 14th when I sat in with you and Eric at a concert in Essen, Germany.
Essen.
So I will show it on screen now. That's 10 years ago. I mean, you can't see it right now, but you know the picture.
Yep.
Norbert Lohan organized the whole concert.
Yep.
And yeah, that was great. And so, yeah, that's the thing. We later met again at the music fair in Frankfurt, and I just remember like everybody trying out the new Thunderbird harmonicas, and like the challenge basically was like who could bend like the lowest note.
Yes.
So yeah, that was quite a moment there. And that's also when my relationship with Hohner started, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Playing at that little blues harmonica meetup jam after the music fair.
Right.
At Club Voltaire.
Right. I do remember that. I was sort of in a fog because of the massive sleep deprivation that I was,
Oh yeah.
the state I was in. But yeah, that was a really pretty darn special time. That's when I think that Hohner was really like firing on all cylinders at that time. They had some really great stuff going on with the company, with Michael Timler involved with them. It was a pretty special time.
Yeah, definitely. The booth was great, and yeah, it was my first live, well, but the first time playing on stage basically at Club Voltaire at the jam session. I think there's a video online. Somebody from the audience filmed it. I think it was Bruce. You know Bruce, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Eric is tuning in. So welcome,
nice.
Eric. Please say hello to him in the chat.
Hey, Mr. Noden, my favorite.
So yeah, that was basically me beginning. But of course, we should start with your beginnings and your connection to the harmonica. So if we start very, very early on, I think that's interesting for the German viewers. You were actually born in Germany.
In Gießen.
So can you tell us about that?
Well, my father was stationed at the military base there, and he met my mother, and so I'm obviously the product of that. Unfortunately, very shortly after I was born, the two of them came back to the United States, to my father's hometown, which was Lorain, Ohio, and we stayed there until I was about 3 years old, and then we moved here to this outside of Chicago area. So it's an interesting little fact that for a very short amount of time, Eric and I were actually living in the same state in the United States there, in the state of Ohio. So, and my mother was a fan of the harmonica, so there was always harmonicas around me growing up.
Okay.
And yeah, but I didn't really pick it up and get into it really until I was, I think, about 21. That's when I really was listening a lot to American roots music and listening to blues. And I just heard the harmonica differently, and quite literally I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. I was just very fascinated by the sounds that you could get out of such a small instrument and have no visual cues. It's not like you can watch somebody play and they might be wiggling their fingers, but of course that really doesn't tell you anything. So just the lack of visuals was very mesmerizing to me. It's like watching a magic trick. How do they do that? So that was very appealing to me about the harmonica. And seriously, once I started playing, I couldn't put it down. I did basic investigating. I remember communicating with Rick Epping, who worked at the Hohner company in the USA. Okay. And I was just asking a lot of questions about the instrument and how it functions, and in doing other research and stuff, I was just really amazed at how little, in my opinion, how little information there was and how little people knew about how to play the harmonica, how it functions, why reeds bend, things like that. And so that just really continued to drive me into finding out as much as I could. And I happened to be really at the right place at the right time when the harmonicas that were being made and sold were complete and total crap. And I just decided that I'm going to invest some energy in seeing if I can actually make them playable. So, I was truly an outlier. I was the right person at the right place at the right time, and I was the right age. And so I really got to meet a lot of professional players and really learn a lot about stuff. But I really think that what has really driven me is just trying to learn as much as possible about the role of the diatonic harmonica in American roots and, folk style music, which includes blues, of course. I just thought it's shocking that something that is so common in those genres of music has so little information about it. And a lot of the information, a lot of books that were written prior to the 1990s have actually completely false, bad information in them. So that kind of fueled me to the point where I am now.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Like concerning the beginnings, like was it the same for me? It was always about the sound of the instrument and also just the feeling of like playing the instrument.
Right.
It wasn't too much about like the style of music for me starting out.
And it was really, I think, a fantastic thing for you because the internet really opened up by the time you were playing. So you had access to so many different players and so much information. When I started playing, I still had to go to Chicago to the Jazz Record Mart and actually buy LPs to figure out and understand how to play much of this stuff. So you were really like the right person at the right place and time to develop into the musician you are. And can I ask, you are pursuing music full time now, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That to me, that is so much respect for that. That really is a really, really big deal, a really heavy thing. If you can play the harmonica and do it in a full-time manner, big deal.
Yeah, that's like a big thing. I mean, for me starting out, it was crazy to see all the harmonica masters like in 2009 on YouTube. I mean, I could see all the videos and the videos that like the audience took from like live concerts. And as soon as there was like something I knew I didn't know how to do, I would just practice it until I could do it.
Right.
And then just like meeting all of you and Steve Baker in person at the Harmonica Masters, like after just watching the YouTube videos was like a big highlight for me. Yeah, that's when I felt a little starstruck.
Well, the stuff that you're playing on the harmonica now seems alien to me. I think most people that play would probably have to play in a highly dedicated manner for years and years to even appreciate how difficult some of the stuff that you are playing on the harmonica. It's just really mind-blowing to me, really mind-blowing.
I'm trying my best. So, yeah, that's interesting about your beginnings, and it's also your interest in, like just wanting to know about what's happening inside the instrument, because there are so many players out there who just don't think about that stuff at all and just play.
Right.
Which is also fine. So yeah, from what I read, you started out like working on harmonicas very early, right after starting out playing the instrument, right?
Right. That's I have artisan in my blood on both sides of my family. So doing stuff, fixing things, with my hands is something that comes very naturally to me. So I think one of the things that was really initially a curiosity to me is, well, the phenomenon of notes bending. Why do some notes bend and other notes not bend? And when I realized it was the relationship between the interval between the low-pitched reed in the hole and the high-pitched reed in the hole, then one of the things that I did is I took the lower reed plate and I cut out one of the reeds. I shortened it and then I moved everything to the left so that the higher reeds were, so in other words, like hole 7 now was actually hole 6 and vice versa. So I was able to, figure that out. This was even before I realized you could just tune the reed up. I didn't even know you could do that at that point. So I've always been very curious about that kind of stuff for the most part. Just has always been in me.
Yeah. So what I wonder for like other harmonica players, like, what do you think? Like, when should beginners or should any harmonica player start to think about working on their own harmonicas?
Everybody's different. I don't really have any answer for that. There are more people out there that are doing basic repairs and tuning. Some people have an aptitude for doing small detailed work. But if you are one of these people that can't replace the little screw in the arm of your glasses, then you probably shouldn't be taking harmonicas apart. But I do encourage people to try to do basic tuning and basic adjusting, but it's definitely not for everybody. And sadly, most of the time that people think they need to get in and do basic adjusting, it's probably that they just need to spend more time practicing, learning how to play the thing, that adjusting it is not going to necessarily get them to solve their problems as to why they can't play. And like right now in our day and age, there are numerous harmonicas coming out of the box that play fantastically well. The Hohner harmonicas play now as good as any time. But back in the mid-1990s, it was very frustrating for me as a professional teacher, because I could, in fact, at that time, tell that people were trying to play harmonicas that really were fighting with them. They just were very unresponsive due to the poor assembly and the poor tolerances with the reeds and the reed plates. But nowadays, it's a different world. I mean, harmonicas play great, and I think that people really don't have excuses. And for someone like yourself, I think it's fantastic. I believe, am I correct that you have a professional working relationship with Thomas Hanke?
Oh yeah. I mean, I know how to set up harmonicas myself, like up to some point, but he's just way, way better at it than I am. So yeah,
that's like a match made in heaven, because he's very meticulous, very fastidious, and likes to do perfect work. So, for your approach demanding extreme chromaticism and response, it's perfect that you can connect with somebody like that can take care of you.
Yeah, I think I have some harmonicas still that are like 8 years old by him.
Yeah.
They're great. Yeah. And the weird thing is just that we never met in person up until now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising to me. I'll have to yank his chain a little bit and tell him that he needs to get out and see you perform.
Hopefully soon, yeah. So, do you think like the bad quality of the instruments early on had like an influence on like the popularity, or like the instrument being not that popular?
I have really no idea. I live so deep in a dark harmonica hole that I can't really uh, come to any kind of conclusion as to what makes it popular and why it's unpopular. I personally think that in the mid 1960s, when they introduced the blues harp, I I feel like I can detect that the the quality, the responsiveness of the harmonica is kind of dipped, and they kind of remained largely mediocre until they decided really to get their act together. And that probably happened in the late 1990s when they really updated the way that the reed plates themselves were stamped out. The low point that have ever experienced was probably about 93, 94, 95, when I think somebody in upper management must have just said that we're going to redesign the way the die is so that we have no rejects, no returned harmonicas, and the tolerances were so bad that the harmonicas were almost unplayable. I mean, they really, like, the Marine Band and the Special 20 were as bad as a $2 harmonica. They were just really terrible. And so, the the professional players that I'd known previous to that, many of them were coming to me in a little bit of a panic about, we need instruments. Is there anything that you can do, anything that can be done? So I'm not totally sure that I did the right thing by investing so much time and energy into trying to understand how to make the harmonicas play better, but I did what I did, and I'm certainly enjoying the hell out of myself now and today. So,
oh yeah, it's great that, the harmonica took a big leap, like in terms of quality, definitely.
Yes, for sure.
So that's a lot of stuff that you did during the last years. So what are you up to right now? And especially during this time, like, did you shift your focus in some way? Not being able to perform?
Well, all the performing is happening online, and nearly every week I'm performing online with my duo partner, the amazing Eric Noden, and all that information is really available. The website is 34 lounge LOUNGE.com, and we are performing. We have this music and conversation thing that we do. Tonight we're performing. It's just the two of us. But next week we're having as a guest England's most amazing Eddie Martin, who's a real one-man English blues man, if there ever was one. He's just a tremendous singer, songwriter, guitar player, and rock solid traditional blues harmonica player. So we try to have different things that we're doing. We also occasionally, every month or so, do a workshop. We've been calling them the Grooves Workshop, and mostly what it is ultra simple stuff that can be done on the harmonica, but done with tremendous discipline, so that the harmonica becomes a rhythm and accompaniment instrument, not just a lead instrument. So that all that information is available, on 34lounge.com. We do have another duo workshop next month. Aside from that, I'm still developing teaching materials, which are all available on my Filisko store, Filisko.com website. I guess I would say that in my years of teaching, I find that nearly everyone agrees what beginners should do, what they should be playing, and nearly everyone agrees what advanced harmonica playing is. but very few people agree on what is intermediate playing material. And I've really been dedicated to trying to like reverse engineer the playing of the Walters and the Sonnies and put them into a etude, a kind of study song repertoire that people who are trying to develop skills can obtain and not have to practice bending for years and years and years and other skills for years. So I actually created quite a new batch of them this past year because of all the extra time that I had.
Yeah.
And so I'm pleased with how that is going. I think it helps unlock the mysteries if you really are in awe of those traditional sound and tone, tongue blocking style players that I feel like the songs I've created really give you like a close up, a much more of a microscopic view of what you should do and what you also shouldn't do if you want to play in those styles. I've also been taking vocal lessons, which has been fantastic for me. The voice really is a perfect counterbalance to the harmonica. The two really fantastically complement each other. And I never had any idea that there was so much behind how you create resonance and volume out of your singing voice. I was misled believing that you had to be born with a good voice, and if you weren't born with it, you couldn't do it. And I'm finding out that is completely not true. I'm able to do things that I never thought I could do before. And I think the only other thing I've been a little bit obsessed with incorporating circular breathing into my playing. This was something that I just I did a debut song at the event Harping by the Sea last week.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really trying to see, what can be done with this. Another one of these things which a couple years ago I would have thought was completely impossible, and it doesn't really relate other than a total novelty to the way that I want to play and the way that I want to sound. But lo and behold, there's, I think, some really interesting possibilities with it. So that's my latest thing, I think, with the harmonica.
So yeah, there's still a lot of stuff going on. I linked all your social media platforms in the description box below, so everybody out there can check that out. I think if they go to your Facebook, they can also find the direct link to the virtual performance that's coming up today. Yes, thank you. That there's definitely there at the Joe Filisco and Eric Noden Facebook page. And like I said, our if you go to rootsduo.com, we have all the shows and all the things that we do there. It's nice to be feeling like I'm being productive in this locked down time. It's very nice. Yeah, that's true. And also there's a lot of stuff to discover on your website. Yeah. I also took some vocal lessons at music school. Yeah. And it was definitely a mind opener for me too. I should actually continue working on my voice. Yeah. Well, I've always really felt like the audience really, more than anything, wants to hear songs, and they want to hear lyrics. So the voice, and I have never changed my attitude since I've begun teaching, is that the voice is the ultimate instrument. There is no instrument that is more powerful and meaningful than the voice. And I'm harmonica crazy. I just love to play the harmonica all the time, but the reality is that the voice is really where it's at. And it's very encouraging to feel like
that my vocals are improving during this time. So I'm not just sitting around feeling sorry for myself.
Oh yeah. Antje's writing a Ziga Cinco. The date is wrong on the Facebook page. It says the show's tomorrow. It's today, right?
Yeah, it's tonight. Yes. So I'm sorry about that mistake.
Okay. Yeah. So you're also teaching online a lot now? So usually you are teaching at the famous Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago in person. So that kind of changed.
It did indeed. It did indeed. I'm not advertising any of the classes that I'm teaching. I'm trying to keep it on the down low, hush hush, so that I can first and foremost tend to the needs of my regular gang of students. I'm trying to keep that group together as much as I possibly can. So I'm not really promoting any of the teaching that I'm doing aside from the duo workshops that I have going with Mr. Eric Noden.
Oh yeah. So there are quite a few questions coming up in the chat. First one is Antje asking, how did your interest in old-time harmonica come about? Is there a story behind it?
So old-time music, it can be tricky to define what it is. It's sort of like the slightly more instrumental version of earlier country music. It's definitely very melody driven. If you don't know the melody in old time music, then you got no business playing it. And it also sort of runs, ties in with the harmonica train imitation. Harmonica train imitation really is it's as much old timey as it is bluesy. And also the famous harmonica instrumental pieces known as the Lost John or the Fox Chase, or anytime the word lost in John is used or in there. These are solo harmonica pieces which really run, head. They are part of the old time and somewhat blues repertoire. If you listen to the harmonica playing of D. Ford Bailey or Kyle Wooten, that gives you a pretty good idea of like what old-timey harmonica is. And the key with that is to know the melody, own the melody, and then improvise behind the melody with what you're doing with octaves and intervals, with what you're doing with chords, what you're doing with tone, and how you accent behind it. So it's a very different type of improvisation. Melodic improvisation is a very small part in old-timey music, but sound and tone improvisation is really huge. It's actually, I think, really only in the last few years of re-examining some of the early recordings of old-timey harmonica players that I really realized that I think that music is way more difficult to play than people give it credit for. It's easy to just be dismissive and say, well, he's just playing a melody. Then you're not seeing the layers behind that. Recently, there was a fantastic documentary on country music that was put out by Ken Burns, and they did an unbelievable job at featuring D. Ford Bailey. And I think in that, I really realized that like a real good way to describe D. Ford Bailey is he sort of is like the Chet Atkins of the harmonica. And Chet Atkins was a guitar player that really had all this intricate stuff going on behind the melody, all these layers that happen behind the melody. And that's really a great way, I think, to describe D. Ford Bailey. It's one of my missions in this life is to defend the musical integrity of D. Ford Bailey and try to make sure that that if people are going to talk about great players like yourself or like Howard Levy or like Little Walter, that there's always D. Ford Bailey's name comes up as being the best of the best also.
Yeah, I think we'll get back to him as soon as we talk about the train imitation challenge. So Jerry Fierro, hey Jerry, also has a little question. Why am I having such a hard time tongue blocking, bending on the high notes?
Yeah, that's it's a little trickier for people, and I think a lot of it is that in general, since Paul Butterfield really made a big name for himself, then people really kind of favor using the puckering embouchure for a lot of bending stuff they're doing. And so this goes back again to old time music. If you listen to a lot of those very early players that had an old timey thing going on, they were really playing octaves almost as much as possible. And you can usually hear some sort of bending going on the high end of the harmonica. And I also feel like that something happened when amplification became very prevalent. When Paul Butterfield had his two Fender twin amps happening, it became playing the high key harmonicas. They weren't as popular as they used to be back prior to that. So when you listen to a player like Rice Miller, Sonny Boy Williamson, he's got that real edgy front of the mouth, stinging, biting tone. That really is the same thing that you need to do if you want to bend the high notes. It's that real front of the mouth tone. And so with amplification and with this more modern way that people think of playing the harmonica, they're more thinking about playing open from their throat and resonating and getting an openness and getting away from this sharp biting attack. So Sonny Terry had this going on. Big Walter had this going on. Rice Miller, of course, had this going on. This is a style that really comes about when you have to play loud and project without a PA and without amplification. And with amplification, you just don't really need to get that biting, stinging sound anymore. There's an instrumental that Big Walter recorded where he's playing an F harmonica and he's doing all the bending down there on the 3-hole draw, like making it sound effortless. So he really knew how to adjust the embouchure to make that happen. So that's the same thing that you really need for bending the high notes. You got to get it in the front of your mouth. It's not an effort thing. If you know where the resonance is, it will bend without any pressure, force, or effort. Of course, you know that, Konstantin, because of the level of musicianship that you are at.
Well, I
hope that helps a little bit.
Wasn't really a big fan of the higher pitched harmonicas during the last few years.
Right.
But then I finally got an F harmonica from Thomas, and it was like self-therapy for me, basically. I was using it a lot in the beginning on my live streams, also incorporating my hands a lot, and now I'm a big fan.
The F harmonica is a weapon. It should come with a danger warning because it's so fierce and it has so much bite and power behind it. So I was sort of living in a different world before I started playing with Eric on a regular basis. And then the playing together as a duo in realizing that in some instances, it's not about turning the amp up. It's about projecting acoustically without the help of an amp. Then I really began to see the amazing value in those higher key harmonicas. Whereas if if we're doing something in the key of C and I pull out a low F harmonica and have all this rich, throaty, big tone that can't be heard, who cares? It doesn't have any value unless you can project and be heard. And when you play with someone that has a metal body resonator guitar, it gives you a whole different set of circumstances that you have to acknowledge. So,
okay, yeah. There's a question by John Trick, big fan of yours from Greece. Do you believe that this over-analysis of techniques takes away the original spirit of the instrument? Are the blues vanished due to commercialism?
Boy, I don't know. I try to personally study the greatest recordings that have ever been made. I try to have a very clear idea of why it was that these recordings were very great. But I do have a very, very analytical mind. And I was told, I shouldn't say I was told, but I had heard many times from many people in my journey to be the best player that I could possibly be, that Sonny Terry sounded that way because he was Sonny Terry and nobody can sound that way. Little Walter sounds this way because he was Little Walter and you can't sound that way. That's his sound. Nobody else can sound that way. And I found that mostly to be completely false. That if you break down all the little tiny elements of what is going on with the hand technique, what is going on with the tone, what is going on with the breath, and what is going on with the tongue blocking, then you can really break it down into very, very small little bits. I suppose for some people that could destroy or interfere with the integrity of the music or the spirit of the blues, but I feel like I'm always reminded of what that music is because of the time that I've spent really studying those recordings and really trying to learn as much as I possibly could from those. Yeah. So that's about the best I can say about that.
Yeah, I think it's the same with like jazz, like, and music theory. You should learn everything and then forget about it when playing. Or there's also a quote by was it Bela Bartok, the classical composer, who incorporated a lot of folk music, like Eastern European stuff, and he also learned like as much as possible, and then it just naturally became part of what he did.
Right.
So then it's not like analyzing anymore.
Right.
So that's the
Agreed.
Goal. There are two quick questions before we can get into the train stuff. Hanyu Violin. Hi Joe, what's the lowest note you can bend?
Geez, I don't even know. When I was playing actively in a 4-piece electric blues band, I was using a lot of the low-tuned harmonicas and developed quite a facility for the bending. But really, when I started playing with Eric, I use them as a chordal instrument, and I don't even really do the bending on them anymore. It just really doesn't interest me. We have a song that we do called Sinking in Love, and I use the low F, and I play basically like a tuba part on it. I usually have to boost the amplifier. But I don't even really try to do bending on it. In the tune the instrumental tune that we recorded that I wrote called the Rue Chase, it's on the low G, and I don't do any bending at all in the whole song there on that. So here I'm bending the barely. It's kind of a sorry bend, but I'm sure I can't bend the one draw on it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've even tried.
That's the answer. And another one by Hank Shreve. Joe, what is your biggest harmonica pet peeve?
Out of tune harmonicas, bad music being
one.
played on the harmonica. You know,
I really got to send some of my harmonicas to Thomas to let them tune again.
Yeah, just poor music. As a teacher, I feel like it's a obligation. It's almost feels like a moral obligation to remind people it's always got to be about the music. Make music and have a plan for making music. And I'm a big advocate that any day, anytime, I would rather hear a very simple song done well than a complicated song sloppy and poorly executed. I just want to hear good music. It's really, I would say, probably would qualify for my pet peeve is just that, you know, sloppy music. Blues players with sloppy rhythm. I'm actually such a kook that I make a lot of my students play with the metronome held up to their ear so they can't possibly ignore what the groove is. I really like a good solid groove in music.
Yeah. So rhythm is the most important element, and I think that already gets us to the train imitation challenge. That's probably what we are looking for next week.
Well, if that is the absolute number one rule for the train imitation, is that if you break the groove, then it's like I have an analogy when I teach. It's in Cajun South Louisiana cooking. Much of the food is made with a roux, and with a roux, you gotta stir the flour in the oil nonstop so that it doesn't burn or scorch. If you burn or scorch it, you got to throw it out and start over. And so that is the equivalent of playing the train imitation. If you break the rhythm, you burn the roux. You're disqualified immediately if you break the rhythm, because it's like a train. If you imagine the enormity of a train is not going to suddenly decrease speed, 25 miles an hour. It's a very gradual thing in terms of the rhythm, and that's the way, in my opinion, that your harmonica train piece needs to be. The groove has to be revered.
So yeah, that's what's going down next week on Saturday, the train imitation challenge. It's a Saturday, that's a little exception. I usually don't stream on Twitch on Saturdays, but it's Saturday, February 20th at 6 p.m. Central European Time. You can find all the information linked below in the description box. There's the link to the Twitch channel. And you have the option to upload your train imitation recording to the Harmonicat's Discord server right until 6 p.m. Central European Time next week Saturday. You can win a Hohner Marine Band 125th anniversary harmonica, and a lot of merch too. So you should give it a try. So what are we looking for on Saturday next week? What would you say are the elements of train imitation?
Well, the groove has to be number one. I would say that I'm looking for a story. The thing that's really such an interesting thing about the train is that the tuning of the harmonica lends itself perfectly to recreating the actual sound of a train. So, and it's really easy to try to be fancy with it and throw in things that are not necessarily train sounding. Those things don't tend to excite me. What I personally like is keeping it really simple and improvising with your dynamics and improvising with your head tone, how you shape your mouth and throat to creating a Doppler-like effect with the train, and the same thing with your hands. So really the improv with the simplicity of the train comes with dynamics and tonal changes, what you do with your mouth and what you do with your hands. And, the whistles have to be lonesome sounding.
Okay, yeah. Shiga is asking, where do we upload it? Can't find the channel on the Discord. If you go to the link, you will only have the welcome category available, and you have to just pick a little emote there and click the little green button to get access to the whole server. And then you can pick your level, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. I mean, the only way to structure this was like just thinking about like if you're able to play bendings or if you're able to play overblows. So that would be intermediate and advanced. And then you can just upload your recording there. And I think you can upload long recordings, but I think we should only listen to like 1 minute each. We don't have time to listen to 5-minute recordings on Saturday next week. So yeah, there will be 3 winners in the end, 1 in each category.
Nothing makes me happier than a good train imitation on the harmonica. So I hope you enter something in. Please do.
So what would you suggest? What are like some players to listen to, getting some inspiration for these train imitations?
So many players early on in the 1920s. I mean, Henry Witter in December of 1923 cut a record or a bunch of sides, and in the I think January, February 1924, the record came out of the old-time Southern fox chase harmonica instrumental and his train. What was the exact name of the train? I can't remember, but it was, train imitation thing. And his was okay. It's not that exciting, but it definitely inspired a lot of other people to do similar harmonica instrumentals. My personal favorite are the Palmer Maccabee, called Maccabee's Railroad Piece. I find that piece just to be, I never get tired of listening to it. The Freeman Stowers train imitation is really pure magic. The William McCoy train imitations and fox chase has got some really spectacular things going on in that. I also really love Lonnie Glossen's train imitation. I think that there's elements of what Lonnie Glossen did in his train imitation that I think are just otherworldly, is a good way of putting it. There's this idea that how could something as small as the harmonica recreate the enormity of a train? And those players really did like some amazing recordings capturing that.
Oh yeah, there you have it. So John Doyle just wrote, "Listen to Joe." That's true. So, I mean, I'm sure I can't compete with you, but would you mind giving us a little taste of a train imitation?
Yeah, sure, anytime.
Which key harmonicas would you suggest for people out there to record this on?
Traditionally, I think most players would favor the lower key harmonicas, so like an A harp or a G harp. Sometimes I might use a low F, but if you go lower than that, there's a teeny weeny bit of response that you're missing. The reeds are just heavier and they don't respond quite as quickly. So my favorite general way to do the train is to start out slow and accelerate to your fastest speed, do some decorative things in there, tell some little stories by things you're doing, and then decelerate. So you sure you want me to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? All right, sure.
That was very educational for me too. People really liked it in the chat.
Good.
There's some nice comments. Dynamics. That's important. That's what we are looking for.
Well, if you want people to listen more carefully to you, playing more quietly is an option that you should consider.
Yeah, also I think you will have better chances to win if you use your hands while doing the train imitation.
Yeah, I a lot of times I don't even really even use my right hand. A lot of times I'll just use a resonator, and it has the same effect. But I didn't want to confuse folks by doing that, and really this idea that for the diatonic harmonica in American roots music, you really should use both your hands skillfully to enhance the sound. And there's definitely a lot of things that you can do skillfully to enhance the sound and help tell the story. And again, it's my take on it is it's about improvisation, but it's not melodic improvisation. It's sound and tone improvisation.
Yeah. Joel Anderson also tuned in. Hope you're
Joe,
doing well.
all right.
So yeah, there was another idea by Antje. I should just invite Thomas Hacker to the Hohner Live. That's a good idea.
That is a very good idea. Yes.
Definitely. Giga, you should upload your recording to the category that fits your level of playing. So as soon as you enter the welcome category, you can choose your level and your role with a little emote there, and then you get access to either the beginner, intermediate, or advanced channel. And that's where we'll be listening to all the recordings next week, Saturday, That's February 20th at 6 p.m. Central European Time on Twitch. Rodrigo says, Joe's beard is so badass.
Yeah. Never thought I would grow it, but then again, I never thought I would be doing all this online stuff. So,
yeah.
Oh, and I can confirm that I have not found one single advantage for having a beard that makes the harmonica playing go better or easier. There's not one single advantage.
Okay. So I'm not missing out.
No.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's 1 hour. I mean, I'm just really looking forward to the Train Harmonica Challenge. It's awesome to have you on board.
Pleasure's mine.
And I'm excited. Like last month, there was the premiere of the challenge series with Brandon Power, and we did the Irish Harmonica Challenge. So yeah, it worked out well, and all the technical stuff works out. And I think it's a nice, or it was like my dream format when I started to stream on Twitch. So
nice. You're the man with a plan. That is great.
So yeah, next week, Saturday,
right on.
February 20th, 6 p.m. Central European Time. You have time to record yourself. Up until then, upload your recording there. We'll listen to everything and give you some feedback. And I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone for tuning in today. Thank you so much, Joe, for your time. It was a big honor. Yeah.
My pleasure. Very much my pleasure. I was looking forward to it, and it's been so fantastic to connect with someone who is as passionate about playing the harmonica well as you are. The time that you've invested to being the player you are is almost unimaginable, I think, for many people. And for you to acknowledge this old sound and tone, tongue block, chord player, I'm very honored. Thank you so much.
So that's a question for me. What do you think? Like, what's like the future of the instrument? Like right now, I think the harmonica world is connected more than ever online, which is awesome. And you can see amazing players from India, from China, like 9-year-olds playing Flight of the Bumblebee on the harmonica. Like, what do you think? Like, what will be the status of the harmonica, the diatonic harmonica in the music world? Like, I don't know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
Well, clearly, with folks like yourself, any style of music is being played at a high level. It's just that my experience in the time that I have invested in with teaching, that it's like catching lightning in a bottle. Somebody is dedicated and focused and determined, who has got a vision like you do. These are very rare people that come along. So in one regard, I think anything is going to be heard played on the harmonica. My personal interest is just to sort of be the preserver and the protector of these early styles of harmonica playing, stuff that I would say plays naturally extremely well on the way that the harmonica is tuned. Some genres of music just, they don't fit well with the way the harmonica is. But other genres like folk tunes that just have a 1 chord and a 5 chord in them, just a 2 chord songs, many of these really, really fit the tuning of the harmonica. Some people would not agree with this, but I feel like traditional blues fits the tuning of the harmonica, the way that the blues scale comes out. You got to remember that people put a priority on learning the 12 bar blues. Well, if you're playing in cross harp, then the vast majority of the chords you have a 1 chord and 4 chord. The only chord you're missing in its completeness is the 5 chord. So really, I just want to try to remind people what the easy stuff is that can be played on the harmonica, and I'll leave all the really difficult and near impossible stuff for young cats like you.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm trying to like just take advantage of these, these things like the harmonica can do well at any point in any musical context. So yeah, I think that foundation is very important. Also, the time where I was a 100% tongue blocker for like a year. So yeah. Oh, sorry, Tosi. Tosi wrote a nice little message, but I deleted it.
Oh no!
There was some weird word in there that got striked by YouTube. But thank you for the great stream. I wish you all a nice evening. That's what we wish you too. See you next week, Saturday. If you're waiting for the next Hohner Live here on the YouTube channel, it will be in 2 weeks from now, same time, together with Ronnie Shellist. That's episode 40. And as you heard, there are so many great other ideas for guests here. I think this can go on for some longer time.
It's nice. It's nice to be using this time productively.
So yeah, get ready, practice your trains. See you next week on Saturday on Twitch. Thank you, Joe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, folks. Ciao.